A planer, whether it's a smaller benchtop model or a heavy-duty floor model, is a must-have for any shop. And in this video, I'll walk you through the basic overview of planer controls, components, and help you find the perfect machine. Planers are designed to work away at a wood surface until a uniform thickness is achieved, making the material usable for your projects, whether that's building a tabletop or parts for cabinet doors and drawers. It's a major part of proper board dimensioning. So how does a planer work? Well, first, not all planers are the same or offer the same features, but here's a quick primer on the basic operation of a planer. It's always best to begin working with a workpiece that is already relatively flat on one side. Whether it was milled with a joiner or a resaw bandsaw, a flat surface is key. Remember, we are trying to create a uniformly dimensioned workpiece from this somewhat rough piece, and a joiner will give you a flat surface relative to the piece. But flat doesn't always mean uniform. Check your material thickness and use the planer height hand wheel to set the height accordingly. This can take some trial and error to reach the top of the workpiece. You know you have the thickness set properly when the infeed rollers of the machine start pulling the workpiece into the cutter head. Once constant workpiece contact is achieved, you can make small hand wheel adjustments with each successive pass to dimension the board to its final size, but more on that in a little bit. But let's take a closer look at what's happening inside the planer as the cut is taking place. The infeed and outfeed rollers on the planer can be either rubber coated or serrated steel to help get the traction on the workpiece. And on some larger models, bed rollers might be present as well. Bed rollers sit nearly flush to the planer's table itself and are designed to assist the infeed and outfeed rollers with moving the workpiece along. So, as the workpiece enters the planer, it first must pass a depth limiter, which is often built into the front of the planer and acts as the indicator for a 1/8 inch max depth of cut. Now, do not exceed this 1/8 inch max limit. Next, it's picked up by the infeed roller, which I mentioned earlier, and passed beneath a chip breaker that runs the full width of the table. The chip breaker, along with the chip deflector, helps kick material into the dust collection system, helping to prevent chips from being pressed into the workpiece. The cutter head spans the width of the table as well, and is often represented in the name of the planer itself, referring to the maximum width of cut. With the cutter head working hard to remove material and the infeed roller pushing the workpiece inward, the next stop is the pressure bar. The pressure bar, which is available on machines with a 20-inch capacity and larger, applies slight downward pressure on the freshly cut workpiece, stabilizing it as it leaves the cutter head, and works its way to the outfeed roller. The outfeed roller also spans the width of the work table and provides downward pressure and assists by pulling the material through the cutter head and beyond, once the cut is complete. Now, the entire time the workpiece is moved through the machine, it has traveled smoothly on the main table and infeed and outfeed wings. A perfectly flat main table, whether it's steel like this benchtop machine, or a precision ground cast iron like this floor model, is essential. There are several styles of infeed and outfeed tables available as well. Often, benchtop machines will feature a steel infeed and outfeed tables that can fold up for storage, while larger machines can feature either a roller style table or a precision ground cast iron tables. So we've taken a close look at what's happening inside the planers. Now, which one do you go with? The correct planer, like most other machines in your shop, should match your style or your future style of woodworking. I say future style because it's always a good thing to consider a bit larger machine to ensure that you have the capacity and power to complete your current work with ease and to expand your abilities in the future. For example, a benchtop 2 horsepower, 12.5 inch capacity like this might be perfect fit for a one-car garage shop. It's got the power, it's got capacity needed, and it runs off the standard power in your home. Plus, it folds up and stores away. A great thing about most planers, however, is the ability to make them mobile, with a simple mobile base like our T28000 Bear Crawl. So you can take what most folks think of as a standalone machine and make it mobile, like this 3 horsepower, 15 inch fixed table planer. Something to always keep in mind, as I mentioned a moment ago, is the power source you intend to use. Planers are pretty heavy duty and require considerable power, with some being rated for 110 volt standard power, while others, typically those larger than the benchtop size or larger than 2 horsepower, will require a 220 volt power source. Always ensure you have proper power in the space you plan to be working, and if not, ensure that you have a certified electrician install the correct voltage for you. Alright, so we've looked at the inner workings of the planer itself, plus looked at identifying the right size of machine for your space, plus the usefulness of a mobile base. Now let's focus back on some of the external controls and components of the planer. The exterior of a planer is actually pretty simple, with some models featuring a top-mounted motor, and others, typically the fixed base models, feature a stand-mounted motor. Motor size for planers varies from 2 horsepower mentioned earlier all the way up to 15 horsepower 3-phase production models. So if you need more power with your planer, Grizzly's got what you need. The headstock of a planer can either be fixed or movable based on the machine style. For example, this 20-inch planer features a fixed headstock with 4 covered columns supporting the table, which moves up or down each time the table height hand wheel is rotated. In the case of this 12.5-inch benchtop planer, the headstock with motor travels up and down while the table remains in one place. The fixed table height can be very handy when, for example, you have a long workpiece that requires multiple passes through the planer. Now, return rollers can be a great helping hand between passes and are also available on some models as well. So, what are some other components on the top side? Clearly visible in the front of the machine is the cut thickness gauge with indicator. It's a good practice to check your indicator mark from time to time to ensure it hasn't been bumped during use. Some planer models will feature a fixed in-feed and out-feed roller system. For example, this benchtop planer features a feed speed of 32 feet per minute, while other models offer feed speeds that are adjustable. For an example of adjustable feed rate, in this 15-inch model, there's 2 feed speeds, 16 and 20 feet per minute. It's important to remember that feed rate should only be adjusted while the machine is running to avoid damaging the gearbox. Finishing off our tour of the exterior of a planer is the control panel. Planers can feature everything from a toggle on-off switch with a removable safety key to a fixed control panel with a power indicator light. No talk about planers is complete without covering the focal point of the machine, the cutter head. Cutter head types vary from machine to machine, with 3 main styles being at the forefront: straight knife, spiral, and helical. Now, there's a lot of conversation online and elsewhere about which cutter head style is best, so let me wade into this and just say yes. Confused? Well, yes, because each cutter head style will produce a beautiful end result for your project. But let's break it down a bit further. Most straight knife cutter heads feature 3 or 4 blades that span the full width of the table. So a 15-inch planer means it has a 15-inch long blade. One drawback to a straight knife is when you contact a solid object, like an unseen nail in a board. This leads to a nick in the blade, which translates to a line being left on the finished surface. With the spiral or helical cutter head, you have offset carbide inserts into each cutter head, with each insert featuring 4 cutting surfaces. Only one is used at a given time though. In our testing, spiral and helical cutter heads produce an indistinguishably clean finished pass, nearly finish ready actually. So what is the difference between a spiral and helical cutter head? It's the angle at which the inserts are set. A spiral cutter head is set along the spiral channels, in line with the cutter head itself. Think of the insert in a spiral cutter head as a mini straight knife blade. A helical cutter head is the same 4-sided carbide insert, but set along the spiral channels at a slight slicing angle. If you happen to run into a nail with a helical or spiral cutter head, you simply find the insert with the nick, loosen the bolt, and rotate the insert 90 degrees for a fresh edge. Each insert is marked with an indicator, so it's easy to track the life of the insert. And when it's all worn out, you simply replace the insert. When it comes to longevity and finish quality produced by your cutter heads, you really can't beat a spiral or helical. This convenience does come at a price, however, with the spiral and helical often running a bit more in initial cost. But when the time and expense in blade replacement, sharpening, and resetting is considered, the long-term cost is well worth the initial investment. Plus, spiral and helical cutter heads are noticeably quieter to operate over straight blades, due to the amount of blade contact at any one time on the workpiece, and basically the amount of air the cutter head is moving while you simply rotating. So there you have it, a full breakdown on what is one of the most useful machines in your workshop. Be sure to visit grizzly.com to see our huge lineup of planers, from the benchtop to the full production-ready machines. And please consider liking this video and subscribing to our YouTube channel for more helpful videos.